the Lebanese Muslim Association's condemnation of Scott Morrison amid Bondi beach tragedy. Hey everyone, welcome back to our CISA Pacific News. Today, we're diving deep into a story that's rocked Australia and sparked heated debate. The Lebanese Muslim Association's fiery condemnation of former Prime Minister Scott Morrison in the aftermath of the tragic Bondi beach attack. This isn't just politics. It's about faith, security, and where we draw the line on free speech. Stick around for the full breakdown. If you appreciate in-depth analysis like this, hit that like button and subscribe. On December 14, 2025, what should have been a joyful Hanukkah celebration at Sydney's iconic Bondi beach turned into a nightmare. A father-son duo, Sajid and Naveed Akram, opened fire on hundreds gathered for Chanukah by the sea. 15 people were killed, including a 10-year-old girl, a Holocaust survivor, a Chabad rabbi, and others aged 10 to 87. 29 more were injured in this targeted anti-Semitic terror attack inspired by Islamic State ideology, complete with ISIS flags found in their vehicle. Global leaders condemned it, from US President Trump calling it a purely anti-Semitic attack to Arab nations like Jordan and Qatar expressing solidarity with Australia. Mourners gathered in the thousands, but the event exposed deep fractures in Australian society, with rising anti-Semitism since October 7, 2023, playing a grim role. Enter Scott Morrison. The former PM, speaking at an anti-Semitism conference in Israel just days later, didn't hold back. He called for Islamic leaders to step up against radicalization, saying they have a pastoral duty to protect their communities. Morrison advocated for stronger frameworks, like accrediting imams, translating sermons into English, and cracking down on links to foreign Islamist groups. He anticipated backlash, dismissing accusations of Islamophobia and framing it as safeguarding multiculturalism. Supporters, like the video host on Sky News, praised it as a reasonable call to action, pointing to global terror links to radical Islam. But critics saw it as vilifying Muslims, especially amid the Gaza conflict. The backlash was swift. The Lebanese Muslim Association, LMA, a prominent voice in Australia's Muslim community, fired off a full-page statement blasting Morrison as a failed politician, struggling with irrelevancy. They accused him of being divisive, disloyal, and opportunistic, referencing his bushfire holiday scandal and poor polling record. Labelling his comments offensive and grotesque, they highlighted the irony of him lecturing on social cohesion from Israel while tens of thousands die in Gaza. The LMA even suggested charging him under Australia's new hate speech laws, arguing if his words don't qualify, what does? Muslim Affairs Minister Anne Ali echoed this, calling it vilifying all Muslims and rooted in stereotypes. Scott Morrison addresses real radicalization risks, post-Bondi beach attack on Jews, protects communities from extremists like ISIS. Not anti-Muslim, but anti-radical. There are 20% of anti-Morrison elements exists in Australia. Personal attacks deflect from substance, timing from Israel, insensitive amid Gaza, risks alienating Muslims and fueling division. This clash highlights Australia's struggle with multiculturalism. Anti-Semitism reports spiked after October 7th, leading to calls for hate speech laws and inquiries. But some, like Green Left, argue the Bondi attack is being exploited to silence Israel critics. On X, discussions range from government accountability to conspiracy theories, with users demanding deportations and stronger vetting. Morrison himself called the attack a desecration of our nation. The Bondi attack was a wake-up call, and Morrison's speech versus the LMA's condemnation shows how polarised we are. Australia needs honest dialogue to heal, not division.
But first, the Lebanese Muslim Association has launched a blistering attack on Scott Morrison after he dared to suggest Islamic leaders should better monitor how Islam is taught in this country. In a full-page statement, they described the former Prime Minister as a failed politician struggling with irrelevancy. They called him divisive, disloyal and a political opportunist. Oh, and they suggested he should be charged, under the government's new laws, with hate speech. In today's Australia, pointing at the fire alarm is more offensive, it seems, than setting the building on fire. All of this outrage because Scott Morrison opined that, in the wake of the Bondi terror attack allegedly committed by Islamic jihadis, it might be time to think about how Islam is being manipulated to inspire violence. The statement began with this gentle love letter. The Lebanese Muslim Association wishes to make it clear the last person the Australian Muslim community would ever seek advice from is a man who failed as Prime Minister, failed as Treasurer, failed as a Senior Minister and failed to unite the country when it mattered most. Ouch. That's not an argument, that's a one-star Google review. Talk about playing the man and not the ball. I note they failed to mention Scott Morrison's greatest triumph, stopping the boats. I can't imagine why, but I digress. Next, the association demonstrated its deep engagement with Morrison's argument by listing a series of political grievances that had absolutely nothing to do with Morrison's argument. They accused Morrison of, and I quote, abandoning the nation during the Black Summer bushfires to holiday in Hawaii while Australians suffered devastation and loss. Now, maybe it's just me, but I'm not sure how Morrison's handling of the 2019 bushfire season is relevant to his comments on the 2025 Bondi terror attack, unless the radicalisation pipeline runs directly through Waikiki. The Lebanese Muslim Association then continued with a long laundry list of Morrison's failures, ending with this political mic drop. Quote, leaving behind a fractured Liberal Party now polling so poorly that its leader trails even Pauline Hanson in preferred Prime Minister rankings. Now, that one did make me laugh. The logic, see if you can follow it, is that Scott Morrison has no right to comment on Islamic extremism because Pauline Hanson is outpolling Susan Lee in the race to beat Anthony Albanese. See how that political trivia completely negates Morrison's thoughts on how to curb radical Islam. The Lebanese Muslim Association had harsher words for Scott Morrison than they did for the alleged Bondi terrorists. The funny thing is that Scott Morrison warned when he gave his speech that this would be the reaction.
Some will seek to characterise my remarks as hostile to Australia's Islamic community and even multiculturalism itself, trolling out the usual accusations of Islamophobia. To the contrary, I am advocating reforms that I believe will help religious leaders in our Islamic community keep the wolves from their flock.
When Morrison said he wanted to help the Islamic community keep the wolves from the flock, I wonder if he was expecting the Lebanese Muslim Association would be the ones to bare their teeth. After devoting half a page to smearing Scott Morrison's character, as opposed to actually addressing anything Scott Morrison said, the Lebanese Muslim Association finally got to their substantive point, and I'll quote, it is both offensive and grotesque that Scott Morrison would lecture Australians about social cohesion while speaking from Israel, at a time when tens of thousands of innocent civilians are being killed in nearby Gaza. Well, I did not see that one coming, did you? How dare a former Prime Minister of Australia suggest ways to save Australians from being killed by terror attacks in Australia when Israel... Let's recap. Alleged Islamic jihadists, allegedly radicalised here in Australia, allegedly shoot 15 Australians dead at Bondi Beach on a Sunday afternoon. Scott Morrison makes some suggestions as to how the Muslim community might want to prevent people from misunderstanding their religion of peace as a licence to kill Jews in the name of God. And the Lebanese Muslim Association's response is, do something about Israel. Listen carefully to what Scott Morrison said in his speech.
Islamic leaders have a pastoral duty to protect their communities from radicalisation. And I believe most take this responsibility very seriously. However, stronger institutional frameworks would assist them, but it would also expose those who do not share their commitment.
What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay safe. See you next time.